Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BSG 35. We are live once again, starting with Aeshmah, track in Yomi 80% Kabuki, single run on the PlayStation 5. Take it away.
Right, hello everybody, and welcome to BSG 35 on site. Isn't that exciting? I am. Especially because I get to show this game off for the very first time during a marathon. Only released at the start of May, so it's not that old of a speed game, which is why the leaderboards are still a little bit of a turmoil because we just constantly keep beating our world records. So we might actually be able to see the world record run today. Let's hope for that. We're going to be playing on Kabuki, which is the easiest difficulty setting out of the 4 difficulties available because it is probably the fastest run. Before we start, I would actually have a commentator for me. Sadly, he got ill before the event happened. So, Nash, if you're watching this, I hope you get better soon, and I will see you at ESA. Other than that, there is an incentive running, so there are actually 3 endings you can choose. So, if you want to see the Love, Duty, or the Vengeance ending, please donate to that incentive, so we can choose that at the end of Chapter 6, which will happen about 50 to 55 minutes into the run. So, you know, you guys have a little bit of time to watch how this run will unfold and donate money to that incentive. Other than that, I guess we can just go ahead and get this one going because we have about an hour to kill, so let's go ahead and do it. The timer will start once I start skipping the very first cutscene, so as soon as you see that little indicator in the upper right corner of the screen, that will be your cue. The timer. So with that all set, I guess let's just go ahead and game, shall we? Yes, I do want to start a new game. So, I will try to count down the timer. We will start this run in earnest in 3, 2,
真の調和を保つ者は手ほどきするは学ぶこと。ゆえに今日は我が先を行こう。愛を分けよ。しかと見よ。
We are in control of Hiroki, the little child on the right side of the screen. And we are being, you know, tutorialized by Sanjuro, our master. Gonna teach us how to
己が身につけし技を見せてみよ。Hiroki.
At the start of the game, we only have access to some basic combos that we are gonna show to our master. And there is also another very peculiar thing.
目を離すでない。一時たりとも相手に背を向けてはならぬ。刀を振ることしか知らぬ者の先は見えておる。守りを固めるのだ。防げ、Hiroki。防ぐのだ。相手の気力がそがれるのを待つは愚か者のすることぞ。風のように動け。さすれば刀にとらわれることはあるまい。
Go ahead and concentrate because we have some counter-attack training to do, which takes a little bit of getting used to. There actually was a patch released like a week or 2 back, which changed the timings on the parries and the counter-attacks just a little bit and actually made them easier to perform, which is, you know, always nice because the timing for all of that was very strict from the get-go. Alright, that is the training done. We are now free to roam the world.
こちら先生はいかなる時も稽古を立つことはありませんでした。今のは何か気を悪くされたのでしょうか。
何をおっしゃいます、ヒロキ殿。あなた様は自慢の弟子でございます。
Other than that, the other little kid following us is Aiko. He is Sanjuro's biological daughter, and
Hiroki殿、Aiko様へ一つ手土産でいかがかな。
trading, Sanjuro got called away, and we are now trying to find out what the hell is going on because our master never left us alone during practice. Like that is.
かたじけのうございます。
We're just trying to, you know, follow in his footsteps.
何を気にかけているんだい。
間違いね
え。早道がございます。 通ればことになるやもしれませんが、
されどお咎めになる先生もここにはおりません。
それほど厳しい父ではありません。
ここで何をしておる、盗人どもが。
ヒロキ殿。
また振られちまったよ、兄貴。今度は何だってんだ。
どけ、私の番じゃ。
勝負事は相手より。
I mean, I've speedrun a lot of Ghost of Tsushima before this, so I just felt
ヒロキ殿、今のは何者かの叫び声でしょうか。
いかにも 先生がいらっしゃるところに違いありません。逃げろ！逃げろ！
We are about to go. And already hear about the gong. So are starting to go.
拙者から離れませんよ。
Because the town is getting attacked by bandits. And that basically lifts the mystery of where our master has gone, because he is trying to protect this lovely little town from the corresponding bandits. And now we'll have our first sword fight. The first bandit we're gonna kill. And he's dead. Like I said, this is the easiest difficulty setting of the game, so most of the enemies, more or less just will go ahead and fall over once we look at them the wrong way. Which is pretty good, because there are a lot of enemies that we're going to go ahead and cut down. Other than that, we'll just follow the road here for a little while. So if our lovely host has anything to plug for now, I guess this would be a good time to do so. So on the way here, we just went ahead and picked up a health upgrade. Because one of the peculiar things with this game is that there isn't actually any kind of chapter select or new game plus or anything. So once you have basically completed the game, it will more or less wipe your save file, and you will have to start over at the beginning again. So that also makes it a little bit hard, I want to say, to practice specific sections of the game. But it just kind of goes with the flow, because the game is actually pretty short. I mean, the speedrun will take us a little over an hour. And if you're just playing it casually, I guess you can expect something between 4 to 6, maybe 8 hours if you just go for all the collectibles and upgrades and stuff like that. But, you know, keep in mind that you will lose everything on starting a new game. And since there is no chapter select or anything, if you have missed something, well, you know, it will stay missed for the next playthrough. But you also won't take any of your techniques or something to a new game plus playthrough. So, you know, it doesn't matter that much. But that also makes routing this game pretty interesting, because you will only have access to certain combat techniques from a certain point in the run onwards. So you will actually see me use a lot of this downward slash, because it comes out pretty fast to take care of these enemies in like one hit. However, we will obviously face some other enemy types later on in the game, where I will start using other techniques to get rid of those guys a little bit more easily. Speaking of the enemies, you have these box standard bandit kind of guys, and you can basically just run up to them and slash them, because their attacks take a while to get out. In contrast to that, you have these guys with a hat, and they actually have 2 attacks that they can open with. Either one of them is a normal slash, once again, that you can just go ahead and interrupt with your own sword strikes. The other one is if they go for a stab. Now, the stab is a little bit more complicated, because it has a longer reach and comes out pretty fast. So they might actually go ahead and hit you with that, so you have to be aware of that. And with that, we are already at the boss of the first chapter. Now, this is basically a scripted boss. You only have to parry him and do a counter attack, and that will immediately end the run, because you're not really supposed to fight this guy in a proper one-on-one situation, because, you know, you're only a kid. But with chapter 1 done, a couple years pass, and we are now grown-up Hiroki. One thing I forgot is that at the end of chapter 1, you know, obviously our master comes in and interrupts the fight with the Bandit Lord. And the Bandit Lord and our master basically kill each other. So we now grew up without parents, without a master, but I guess Hiroki married Aiko. That is like heavily implied at the start of chapter 2, because they are planning how to defend their village from a resurgent bandit attack. So they are, you know, trying to reinforce their town before the bandits come. However, Hiroki hears that another town that is close to them is getting attacked by the same bandits. So he now ventured out with his other samurai to protect that village. However, as luck would have it, all the other samurai get captured, so Hiroki is on his own now. And we are just trying to find all these other samurai so we can go ahead and protect that village. And this is basically where the game starts in earnest, because, you know, we will start getting all different combat techniques. Now we will pick up a couple of different ranged weapons. At the start, we now have the shuriken, which we can throw and deal a bit of damage to them, or sometimes, you know, outright kill an enemy, like we just did with the guy in the black and with the blackened silhouette there. However, the shuriken is more a tool of interrupting enemies. It's not really meant to kill them, because starting from here on out, you would need at least 2 shuriken, maybe even 3 to kill enemies, even though these. So it's more to stun enemies and basically open them up for attacks. However, since ammunition is very limited, we want to try and preserve it as much as possible for points in the run where we actually need. Coming up, we'll get into the mines, and this is basically the second opportunity in the run to kill enemies with means other than your sword. However, we're actually not gonna do that like at any point in the run because it would take time for us to do so. Like you can spin that wheel there, and you can already basically see those rocks on this palette in the air, and that would just go ahead and smash all these enemies, and you would be able to free a prisoner that they've held captive there. But we're speedrunners. We don't particularly care about freeing people that are not crucial for the plot. So yeah, bye, dude. Sorry about that, but we are a bit on a mission here. Let's just go ahead and get the show in. Yeah. Yep. That's actually interesting that that guy immediately died from that shuriken. I've never seen that happen. Opportunities for improvement. Anyway, we are getting introduced to armored enemies now. These guys can take an absolute beating. So what we want to do is we want to stun them. And once they are stunned, you can then instantly kill them with 1 hit. So we have unlocked the light, heavy attack a little bit earlier. And if I land the heavy strike, that will actually stun an enemy. Now, another thing you can do when you have stunned an enemy is to go ahead and execute them. And if you execute an enemy, you get a nice little, quite brutal animation of hierarchy, dealing with the enemy. But more importantly, it will also always restore a little bit of your health. So if you're on a low health situation, you want to try and get the stun attack out, just so you are able to replenish a little bit of your lost health. However, once again, we are playing on Kabuki difficulty, which is the easiest difficulty setting, so we're probably not gonna need to do that ever, because obviously the executions also take a little bit of time to, well, execute, and you don't want to lose time doing a speedrun because you're doing that.
Have time for some donations?
Sure, go ahead.
Right, we have a donation of Thomas OB, €3. Let's kick off. Greets from boiling hot Switzerland, currently 39 Celsius. And also a nice €10 donation from the botanist. Did you know that tulip bulbs used to be worth more than gold during the 1600s? This phrase even caught the crash of the Dutch economy. For more cool botany facts, donate €10 to BSG with the keyword The Botanist.
Well, I mean, you should absolutely go ahead and do that, because I want to hear more facts like that. But also keep in mind that you can go ahead and, donate towards an incentive if you want to see a particular one of the endings in the game. Alright, we're just gonna stand at the end of this pier here so we can surprise these enemies once they come on screen. And something you will start seeing here now is how enemies start to behave. Because there are basically 2 modes in this game that you're operating on. One is the quote-unquote free roam mode, where you can just freely go ahead and properly roam the game or the areas in 3D, where you can walk around. And the other operation mode is the combat. Now, the combat strictly takes place on a 2D plane. However, the enemies don't quite adhere to that, because they can, walk around a little bit to the sides and try and get to your back. And that can be a little bit of a problem, because you can't actually attack or deal damage to the enemies until they are properly on the 2D plane, more or less, simply because all of your attacks only go down in a straight line. There are some attacks that go a little bit to the sides, so it's not completely true, but most of the time, just think of it, as long as the enemy isn't on that 2D combat plane, you can't deal damage to them. And that presents a little bit of a problem, because if an enemy comes from the side onto the combat plane, they actually will only do that if they can get a certain distance between you and them. And that makes this weird little dance happen, where you're just trying to maintain a certain distance to the enemy to coerce them to get on the combat plane. But at the same time, obviously, you want to be very close to them so you can immediately go ahead and strike them once you can deal damage to them. That is something that you will go ahead and have to keep in mind while running this game. Other than that, a great deal will come to stamina management. You can see our stamina bar in the lower left corner. It's this white line that is filling up at the moment, with the health bar in these squares just above it. Because every time we run, we lose, obviously, stamina. Every time we block or we attack, we lose stamina. And if we ever run out of stamina, it's a little bit like, you know, in the Dark Souls games, where we are in a tired state and we can't, or we can only attack very, very slowly. So that will totally mess with us in our attack timings if we get into that point. Anyway, we are at the Chapter 2 boss here. You can see the dead samurai that we were trying to rescue in the background. Just gonna take care of these henchmen. We are gonna hit Zadaitami a bunch more, and that is Chapter 2 done. So we now find out that, you know, it was part of the bandits' plan to get all the samurais away from the town, which we are now entering. This is our hometown. Because it was basically a diversion. The bandits wanted all the samurai of this town gone so they could, you know, invade at their leisure and, you know, set it ablaze. And, yeah, well, I guess you could say they did a pretty good job of that because this town is looking absolutely banged up. So now we are obviously just trying to hightail it back towards our dojo and save Aiko because, you know, she was in charge of the defenses in this town. So let's see how that will play out. Well, that is another thing that enemies can do. They can just basically infinitely backstab you until they hit the edge of the screen where they can't progress. And it just loses you time. You don't want to see that, obviously. Well, that will just happen from time to time. Yep, that was one stab too many. Another thing that you have to try and see, he is just not having it. He was just going all the way back there. So that obviously lost me a bunch of time there. Which is not nice of you guys. Just please stand around and die. That is what I want to see out of all of you. And in just a moment, we will pick up our second ranged weapon, which is gonna be the bow. And the bow is probably the best ranged weapon in the game, out of the three that we get. Because it will deal a bunch of damage and more or less instantly kill every enemy that we come across, which is great. That absolutely helps with a lot of the fights, because you can't just go ahead and do that to all the armored enemies now. And, you know, save a bunch of time, because normally you would have to go ahead and hit them with our light, heavy attack. We basically don't have to do that anymore as long as we have some arrows, because, you know, the arrows simply kill them. Speaking of which, we're gonna pick up some more here. And now you absolutely have to stand here and wait for this first hail of arrows to come down, because if you were just to run out of your cover there, those arrows, even if they wouldn't physically hit you, it's just a huge death plane that is going on there, so you will always instantly die if you step out of cover there before those arrows have come down. Obviously, we don't want that. So we just wait and cover a little bit. Shooting another armored guy, getting rid of this dude. And you're on our merry way.
Time for some donations?
Go ahead.
Right, we have 2 donations. One from Anonymous from 10 euros. Thanks to Aeshmah to represent Trek to Yomi Speedrun. Good luck, buddy. And also a 20 euro donation from Nashlex to the king of samurai games. Good luck on the run, Ash. You got this. We're centering our spirit energy, sending our vengeance. Wish I could be there. Much love.
So I guess this went towards the vengeance incentive?
That is correct.
Ah, thought so.
20 euros on the vengeance. Correct.
Keep in mind, guys, there are 3 endings to this game, and by donating money, you can choose which of these endings we're going to see at the end of the run. And you should have about, you know, probably about half an hour left to get this money in. So Vengeance is actually the, well, I mean, you could probably call it the worst ending in a way. So, you know, if you are in the leagues for a bit of a better ending, maybe, depending on your personal preferences, obviously, get those donations in so we can maybe see the love or the duty ending. I've heard that the duty ending is pretty cool. So we are now getting introduced to the spear enemies. Obviously, they have a long reach because they have a spear. However, we have a bow which has an even longer range. So good riddance, buddy. That was a long fight. Very hard mini-boss, obviously. Gonna grab some more stamina upgrades. Now, once again, we are able to pick up all kinds of upgrades during the run, which we can increase our quiver size, so we can hold more arrows. We can increase our shuriken capacity, so we can hold more shurikens. We can increase our health. We can increase our stamina, and we'll also get a lot of different combat techniques along the way. However, we will basically pick up none of them, except the stamina upgrades and a couple of combat techniques here and there. Because, as I explained a little bit earlier, stamina management is very crucial during this game. So we do want to have a lot of stamina if we can, or at least, you know, as much stamina as we can reasonably get without having to go out of our way. And because later on we will fight some beefier enemies, and you do not run out of stamina while fighting these guys. Now we picked up the light overhead combination. This combination used to be very overpowered in the early stages of the game, because it comes out very, very fast, and it has a property where it stuns the enemy at the end of it. So especially on higher difficulties, you could get this fast combo out, the enemy would be stunned, and they could just go ahead and execute them to not only regain your health if you needed it, but also to you know, just outright kill the enemy. Because especially on Ronin difficulty, which is the quote-unquote hardest difficulty of the game, the enemies have a lot of health, so fights would take a long while to get through. And just repeatedly stunning them and executing them would just cut that down by a significant amount. However, in the recent patch, the ability got changed a little bit, so it now doesn't stun anymore, it just outright kills the enemies. Which, on the one hand, you know, it saves even more time, but on the other hand, it doesn't stun the enemies anymore. So you wouldn't be able to regain your health if you were low on it. So that's supposed to be a little bit of a problem. But I haven't run Ronin difficulty ever since the patch dropped, so I can't yet completely comment on how it would change that particular speed. Nope. Oh, what am I doing? Ah, see, this is the one point where I ran out of stamina. That is why my sword strikes only came out very, very slowly. I did not properly manage my stamina there, and I paid for it dearly. Now we are fast approaching the end of Chapter 3. Keep in mind, the game has 7 chapters in total. So we are, you know, fast approaching the halfway point of the game already. Pick up some more arrows here, please. Thank you. And then the great twist. The bandit overlord attacking this village is none other than Kagero, the boss of Chapter 1. And now we lost, and we died. So, oh, sorry guys, I guess that's the end of the game then. Well, obviously not really, because this is supposed to happen. You are supposed to lose this fight against Kagero, because he is a very beefy enemy. Like, if you were to fight this guy normally, I guess he has more health than the boss of the last chapter of the game. Because if you actually do manage to beat him, you got a secret ending that you can unlock at that point. And that is actually also a other category that we have opened on the leaderboards. So, you know, if a 1 hour speedrun might be a little bit too long for you, you know, there is this one that only takes a little bit over 20 minutes or so, if you want to run that instead, if you're interested in doing this. But since we are playing the full game, obviously our run doesn't end here. Now, theoretically, you could also beat Kagero on a normal playthrough, or on a speedrun playthrough of the game, because, yes, you do get the secret ending if you beat him. But the game also still progresses normally afterwards, just as a sort of, well, you know, you got the secret ending, but you didn't beat it completely, so let's just continue on with the game and ignore that ending that just happened. which is actually a kind of nice thing because you wouldn't have to start the whole game over just to continue on. Because once again, there is no chapter select or anything in this game, so you would have to start all over. Just think of it as that one secret ending you can get in Fury, if you know that game, where instead of fighting the 6th boss, I think it was, the song, you just basically hang out with her until all of eternity. And that ends the game and you have to start all over. Kind of the same deal here. Just that, you know, the game continues on. Anyway, yeah, we are kind of dead now. And we are in this sort of purgatory area. Not really dead, but also not really living anymore. And we are fighting these very weird enemies who are making a fool of me. Because on the one hand, these are very easy enemies because they tend to just go ahead and rush you, which is very good because you can just stand in place and wait for them to come at you and then strike them down with your sword. But on the other hand, they have a tendency to just take you out or just very, very slowly walk towards you. And you can't really tell what they're going to do at first glance, so you just kind of have to, you know, feel it out in a way. And these are now the armored tainted enemies. Obviously, they are a little bit beefier than the normal ones. So we just go ahead and shoot that guy with an arrow again. Unlocking a new technique in the process. The one crucial thing to the combat here is you just have to really see who is going to be the one enemy that's going to attack you. You can basically tell them because that is the one guy that is starting to run towards you or making certain motions, signaling that he's about the one to attack you. Because you can kind of get ready for that and get in position to strike them down as fast as you can. But sometimes, you know, you just have to go ahead and coerce these enemies a little bit into doing exactly that. So that is where the experience of the runner comes in. Because the sooner you can get these enemies to just attack you, because they will just run up to you, obviously the faster you're going to go, because you have less downtime. Now these samurai enemies, they aren't that much tougher than the regular enemies around here. The problem with those is, though, that every time you quote-unquote kill them or deplete their health bar, they would get stunned, and you would have to do another sword strike against them, so you would need about 3 sword strikes total to kill them. And that obviously takes a little bit too much time, so we just shoot them with an arrow because that instantly kills them, saving us a little bit of time there. Another thing that you might have noticed that even though this game is quote-unquote only in black and white, it just looks really, really good. Like, it has a very strong art direction. All the environments and stuff look just, I don't know, just gorgeous. And part of that is that this game, as far as I'm aware, was actually developed in color. And then they just went ahead and put a black and white filter on all of it, so it actually gets a, you know, proper black and white look, as if it was shot on film back in the day. And if you're playing this on PC, there is actually a mod that is either in development or has been fully developed now, which puts the color back on, or rather gets rid of the black and white filter, so you can go ahead and play this game in full color mode on the PC. So, you know, if you play this on PC, definitely play it in black and white first, because I think that is just the most authentic experience you can get out of that. But afterwards, go ahead and play it in color, because I've seen screenshots of it, and it just looks beautiful. Like, it might not completely rival Ghost of Tsushima if you're familiar with that, but it's probably the next best thing that you can get out of this. If you are, you know, into this samurai aesthetic thing. So here we picked up our third and the last ranged weapon. It's the Otsuzu, which is basically this huge hand cannon that you can now use. The problem with it is, or rather, what you can do with the Otsuzu is it pierces enemies. So if the enemies have lined up, you can actually take one shot and kill a couple of them with one shot, or at least damage them. However, the caveat is that the gun is very slow, especially if you have to reload it. And as you see, enemies don't exactly tend to line up a lot. Now, most of the time, it's one enemy on either side of you. So the added benefit of having it pierce enemies is really just lost on it. That just kind of disqualifies it for a proper speedrun. So yeah, sorry gun lovers, but you will never see the Otsuzu in action. And I've never used it during any of the categories that I run for this game, which is pretty much all of them.
Time for another donation?
Go right ahead.
All right. It was me, Yura, the anonymous donation. Much love to Aeshmah. Good run, bro.
Thank you so much. Yura is actually the current world record holder in this category. He and I are battling each other fiercely on the leaderboards right now. Just like in the week leading up to BSG right now, I think we set like 4 new world records in this category alone, which was pretty wild. Like both of us played the game on Wednesday evening. Me getting ready for the marathon, he just trying to get the world record back from me. And I beat his time, he beat my time, and he beat my time again, and then I nearly beat his time again if I hadn't whiffed the last hit on the final boss. So that was a pretty wild night for the leaderboards for sure. So yeah, huge shout out to you, buddy, and I will definitely come back for the world record sooner or later. Maybe today. Who knows? We'll know in about 20 minutes. But yeah, now we are on this bridge, which is actually falling down right behind us. So we have to quickly get rid of these enemies. Luckily, we are playing on the easiest difficulty settings, so not a lot of problem there. If you're playing this on Ronin difficulty, however, it can be very tight getting off this bridge before it completely crumbles. For this enemy to come down from the rooftops. Oh. Alright, so we are fast approaching the Chapter 4 boss here. And Chapter 4's boss is actually gonna be Aiko, you know, our lovely lady that we married. And she's gonna transform into a demon, who would have thought? And the nice thing about her and the boss of the next chapter, actually, is that on the one hand, they are a huge difficulty increase, but they are pretty much set in stone in their AI. So what that means is, as long as you do the same actions, they tend to do same ones as well. So you can kind of, not exactly manipulate them, but at least it's a consistent fight all the way throughout. It's just a matter of executing the strategy. So let's see if I can actually go ahead and do that. Taking a safety shrine here. These are actually the checkpoints that you can get. So this is Aiko. She changed a bit since we last saw her. We're gonna roll behind her. Hit her twice in the back, twice in the front. Chase her over. Hit her again. Hit her again. Tank the hits. And then we're not gonna get the last hit. Oh. Ah, come on, lady. Sally, that was a little bit of a slow fight there. Because I didn't get the proper hits in at basically before she went and jumped away. Okay, we are in Chapter 5 now, and now we are actually in Yomi, which is basically, you know, the Japanese underworld. And while this is going on, it would behoove me if I would actually go ahead and look at the solutions for these things right here. I kind of forgot to do that. Beginning. That's not great. Luckily, I do remember some of them. And since we are in the underworld now, of course, we are going to start fighting ghosts. And these are basically the more or less toughest enemies in the game, because there are a lot of variations of them that all have some basically unbefore-seen abilities. Because, you know, there are ghosts. The developers are able to bend the rules a little bit with these guys and make them, you know, tougher and have actually some kind of mystic abilities, or not exactly abilities that humans could use. So the fights are gonna get all the more interesting from this point onward. So hopefully, we'll see very little of that. Because, you know, speedrun. But again, you know, just look at all these environments. I mean, if you don't think that this is pretty, I don't know what is wrong with you. Like, seriously. This game is just absolutely gorgeous. While this scene is going on, go ahead. This up, so I know what's actually going to happen. And in the game, I know that just for the puzzles. Because, you know, not having the puzzle solutions out is not a good idea. I can't remember all of these. Yeah, these guys have the ability to throw their swords at you. So they basically have a lot of ranged attacks going on now. Obviously, we don't want to get hit by those. So as long as you can just, you know, rush them and immediately start throwing your sword in their faces, that basically interrupts them. So you don't have to deal as much with that. Dodging my sword strike.
We have a moment.
Go ahead.
Right. Let me enlighten you all of the bit wars that is going on. You can still choose your ending. This great game. The Duty, the Love, or the Vengeance ending. Vengeance ending is pending right now at 20 euros, so that's the one on the lead. But also you can name your character for the next game that is coming up, the Pokemon trading card game event. And also you can watch the VJK cutscenes for the Get Set Radio feature 80%. That is brought by 10 euros at this moment, but yeah, we need 50. So get your donations in.
Absolutely, go ahead and do that. You know, we are in the 5th chapter, so you still have all of chapter 5 and all of chapter 6 to go ahead and donate towards the ending. And once you've done that, go ahead and donate towards the other incentives. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what all of this is about, right? We're here to having fun, watch some cool speedruns, but also, you know, collect money for charity. Okay, couple more enemies along this pathway here. Now you might have seen a new enemy type crop up, which is these ghost ladies. Tend to just hang around all the way in the back. And the not so nice thing with them is that they can actually go ahead and summon other enemies. There is one right there. So you absolutely do want to prioritize getting rid of these as fast as you can, because obviously you don't want to have to deal with more enemies than you actually have to. Okay, we are now on this hall, which also looks pretty cool. But there's also, you know, this kind of thing going on now, where our pathway will get obstructed by all these kind of blocks, and new pathways will open up. And it's a bit of a maze area that we now have to transition through. And we get introduced to another new enemy type, which are these Ronin. Now, these are basically the toughest enemy type in the game. They have a lot of health. They had a lot of different attacks. And they can also teleport, as you, well, might have seen during that particular fight there. Now, the thing with the teleport is that sometimes not only do they teleport, they also leave behind an after image. And if you were to hit that after image instead of the true Ronin, you would actually lose all of your stamina, making you go into tired state like right away. And probably don't have to tell you that that is a very bad thing to happen to you, because it tremendously impedes your battle prowess. All the combo attacks that we do, they work off of pretty simple button combinations. Most of the time, you just have to, you know, put in a certain button string to execute them. Some of them, but also rely on you pushing the analog stick in a certain direction. The problem with that is that holding forward and pushing the light attack makes you do a stab attack. And while that may sound good on paper, the stab is actually pretty slow. And I would rather do a other combo attack than the stab. And basically every time you see me do the stab, I was a little bit slow on letting go of the analog stick to have it return to neutral position, so I can actually do a proper combo that I want to.
Time for a donation?
Give me just a moment, because we are coming up on another mini-boss in just a moment here. You might recognize this guy from Chapter 2. It's basically the Chapter 2 boss, just, you know, redone with a little bit more health. But since we've grown in strength as well, more so in the amount of techniques that we can do instead of actual dealing more damage, this fight should go by pretty quickly. So, you know, you might remember this guy. It's the one with the lance hiding behind his lackeys, and he just does basically the same thing again. So he's gonna quickly take care of all of these guys. There are some more coming. Because the important thing here is, once we defeat him, we probably gain access to one of the most powerful techniques in the game, which is the block ignoring combination. And you will basically see me do that a couple times against very strong enemies. And with that, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a €3 donation. Good luck from Japanese runner Kuruko Hakomori, cross boxer.
Cross boxer is another runner of this game. He is, I think, the only actual Japanese runner of this game so far. So thank you so much for the donation. I guess all the Trek to Yomi Speedrun community is coming out in force. I mean, we were all pretty excited when BSG accepted this one, because once again, the game only released at the start of May. So we are, you know, still figuring some things out. I wouldn't say that, I mean, you want to say that a lot of the run is already optimized, but there is obviously still room for quite a few improvements done still. Especially, you know, if more runners were to come in and race this game with us. If you think that this looks fun and it's in your time frame, go ahead, join the Speedrun Discord for it. We are happy to help you out with everything you need to know. Or if you just, you know, enjoy the game, also no problem. Go ahead and talk to us about it, because we do love gushing about it every chance we get. I'll take a safety save here, because I'm trying to try and go for a little bit of a risky strategy in just a moment here. So on the next screen from this one. What we're going to do here is we have to fill this basin with water and then cut the boat free. Normally you would cut the boat free and then engage the water here. But if you're just quick enough, you can make it to the boat before the water rushes you. Otherwise, you would die. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. We can just breathe in for a moment, enjoy the scenery. And then it's back to fighting. The one thing that I find annoying personally is the thing that even though you have ranged attack options, you can basically only use them on even ground, because, you know, you kind of see this slope that we are on here. And the problem is, if we were to shoot an arrow, it goes straight over the enemy's heads, because you can only shoot in a straight line ever with all of your ranged weapons. So whenever you're fighting on the slope, it is just very disadvantageous for you in a way, because you just are limited to your sword strikes. You can't shoot your bow or throw your shuriken. I mean, you can if the slope isn't too steep, but it's just really, really awkward. Sorry. Right to left. Right. There we go. stand on this button here to make the second part of the floor appear, otherwise we would fall in this bottomless pit here. That is there, we can cross.
Time for another donation?
Go right ahead.
All right, a 25 euro donation.
Nice.
Let's get the bid war on. Let me check real quick. It's still Tuesday ending. And ooh, we have a difference on the ending.
Nice.
That is Love is now currently in the lead by 25 euros. So we have Duty on 0, Vengeance on 20, and Love on 25. So yeah, Love is on the lead.
Very good. Love is actually the quote-unquote fastest ending to get in a speedrun, simply because it is the default choice. So yeah, very good. Well, I guess I'll like that. It means I can finish the game in the fastest way possible. But then again, you know, it's basically just a menu choice. So even if I were to select Duty or Vengeance, it might be a difference of less than a second. So, in the grand scheme of things, there is a lot of difference speedrun-wise between choosing the endings. Which means, you know, guys, I've heard Duty is the best ending. So, you know, no love for the best ending of the game. Maybe, maybe not. Because we are approaching the boss of the 5th chapter. And again, keep in mind, the end of the 6th chapter is the cutoff point for our ending choice. So if you want to, you know, watch your favorite ending, you just have a couple more minutes to get that voice heard. So at the end of chapter 4, we fought Aiko, you know, our love, our lady. So who's gonna be the boss of chapter 5? Who could it be? Who was another very important character to us so far? Anybody remember? I think maybe? Yeah. It's Sanjuro. It's our, you know, Sensei, sorry. He has changed a little bit since we last saw him, but that is not so bad, I guess. You know, he's become a very beefy boy, and he's dead. So yeah, like I said before, the bosses of chapter 4 and 5 are basically set in stone. As long as you do what I did, they will always do their same attacks. So it's pretty easy to basically manipulate the AI to get through these fights pretty much unscathed. And now we are in the depths of Yomi. So once again, we are very fast approaching the end of Yomi, which is not the end of the game just yet. Remember, there are 7 chapters. We are in the 6th one. However, in just a while, I will have to cut off the donation incentive for where you can choose your ending. So be sure to get that in if you want to snipe the... Ah, God. Well, that has never happened before, and now you actually get to see what happens if the Ghost Lady goes ahead and summons more enemies that I have to go through. Can I coerce you to come over? Now, how enemy spawns happen is that they are basically, well, based on your position on the screen. So it's kind of a strategic option to not advance too far into a screen, but rather wait until the first wave, so to speak, of enemies has spawned, and then only make the second one appear. And I was a little bit too fast there, basically, spawning enemies before I was exactly ready for them, which meant that the Ghost Lady came out and was able to summon my enemies before I was able to get to her, because that one enemy was actually blocking me from getting there.
Do we have time for a donation considering the bid war?
Go ahead, always.
All right, we have a 30 euro donation from Hab keine Name. Hype and nice weekend to all staff members and runners on site, as well as to the people watching from home. Here goes for another great event in the making, and that is considering 30 euros for the ending, the duty ending. So we have now 30 euros on the duty ending, and it is currently on the lead.
Nice. Keep it coming, guys. Still have a couple more minutes to get more donations in, because we are not quite done with Chapter 6 yet. It is one of the longest chapters in the game. It's also one of the most interesting chapters, definitely visual-wise, because we will be seeing a lot of different environments while we go through Yomi here. So, you know, get those donations coming. This has been a pretty good bid war so far.
Yeah, we have another donation in.
Go ahead.
We have a donation from Anonymous, 25 euros. Trek to your mom. And that is to the love ending also. So the love ending is currently now on the lead of 50 euros. So we are switching from vengeance to duty to love, and we are currently now having 50 euros on the love ending as the lead.
I mean, that is exactly what you want to see, right? Start off the marathon strong with a bid wall like that, where everybody just goes nuts on the choices that you can do. Because they are really good choices, you know. Choosing between love, duty, and vengeance, I mean, that is something that a lot of people, at least in that era, had to do. We are picking up another stamina upgrade here, which is kind of hidden in the foreground. It's actually another really interesting thing is, you know, because of the black and white aesthetic, all the items that you can pick up actually have a little bit of a glow to them. But because everything is in black and white, it's kind of hard to actually go ahead and see them. So you have to be paying really close attention to everything around you in order to find them. And obviously there are also some hidden areas off the beaten path where you can find even more upgrades. So you really just have to keep your eyes open during the whole of the run. And now we have some pretty big portals that we have to go through. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm also always a little bit reminded of the Black Portal of Warcraft when I see that. I think it was called the Dark Portal. Oh my god, I'm getting a Warcraft lore mixed up. How could I? Anyway, archers. We hate archers. They're just standing there in the background, shooting arrows at us. Like the bastards. How dare they? Nothing we can do about it, but, you know, try to dodge their hits. Maybe shoot an arrow ourselves at another guy. What was it? Always great if you look at your notes, and the moment that you don't look at them anymore, you immediately forgot what the solution to this puzzle was. Also, these puzzles are always set in stone, so they are always having the same solutions. So, you know, once you write that down and actually memorize it, it's not so hard to get through these. Otherwise, if you want to try to figure out them yourselves, you basically just have to look around the environment, and you can see these big kanji plastered on the walls and other objects in, you know, the area. And you basically just try to match those to the symbols that you can find on these wheels. And that is basically the puzzle. Right, couple of enemies, and you can see a pretty big creature in the background there. Now, there's a nice dragon coiling around this mountain. However, I'm going to spoil it to you right now. We're never going to see that one up close. Which I was very disappointed by, because I definitely wanted to meet that dragon. Oh, yeah. Not going to happen, sadly. I guess this isn't Dragon Quest after all. Let's track to Yomi, goddammit. Arrows. I'm immediately gonna use to shoot these guys.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
When is it time to close the bid war?
I would say in about 3 minutes or so.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left for the bid war. All right, good to know. So we have Love in the lead with 50 euros. We have Duty on second place with 30 euros. And Vengeance last but not least for 20 euros. So choose your ending now. Get your donations in.
So basically what will happen now, we will go into this temple. And then we will do some, well, dimension hopping kind of stuff. And after that we will face the 6th boss. And that is where we have to make our choice. And I will call for the cutoff a little bit before that. So, you know, once this island hopping starts in just a moment, with every island hop, the cutoff for the donation, for the bid war rather, is just getting closer and closer to an end. In the meantime, we have another puzzle here. You have to activate these obelisks in the correct order. Of course, this is not the first time we're doing this. And there we go, another portal. So now begins a very interesting section of the run, at least visually. You know, you see this big tornado thing in the background. And we are basically gonna go ahead and teleport right into it. Once again, we are fast approaching the end of Chapter 6, so if you guys want to see another ending, now would be a very good time to donate. Other than that, you've seen all these enemies before. We are basically switched the ghosts for these tainted enemies again. From Chapter 4, if you can remember. And we are basically gonna go ahead and jump through a whole bunch of different sections of the game that we have been through previously. Just in a little bit of a jumbled order, and everything, you know, is kind of broken down because it is inside this huge tornado for whatever reason. But it's just a very appealing visual experience, I want to say. For some reason, it reminds me a little bit of crumbling Farum Azula from Elden Ring, if you've been there. Also, guys, see, this is what I mean when I say sometimes these enemies just don't know what they want to do. They just endlessly circle around you. And it can be a little bit annoying because it just loses your time. Like, really? What the hell even was that? And on the other hand, sometimes they just, you know, bunch up like that, and you get both of them with one sword strike, killing them, which is also pretty nice. Okay, that's this area done. We now jump right into the next one. Really, buddy? If they want to, they can be really fast with their back steps. Okay, so I think the next time I activate one of these obelisks, that is when we will cut off the incentive. So that will be in about a minute or so. So, guys, if you want to choose another ending, you know, we've been having a pretty good bid war so far. Keep it coming. You have about another minute or so until we cut that off.
Gonna refresh the bits 1 minute. Just keep refreshing. Keep you posted.
Excuse me. Okay, that was weird. For some reason, Hiroki didn't draw his sword and he couldn't attack. That has never happened before. I guess this is a legit marathon now because, you know, we've set the thing. All of that is out of it now. All the other runners can breathe a sigh of relief. All right, so if you were to go ahead and cut this off basically now.
Done.
What's it gonna be?
It's gonna be love with 50 euros.
All right, once again, love prevails. So we will just deal with the last enemies in Chapter 6 here before we get to the boss. And I guess you guys can already start guessing what will be the boss of Chapter 6. You know, we've killed our sweetheart, we've killed Aiko, or, you know, the demon impersonating her. We have killed our master. But who is left that we could get rid of? Or that we may have to get rid of? Who's gonna be? The pursuit of love. Well, it is ourself, of course. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try and stun lock him with this sword combination. And that was the fight. Didn't quite work out, but it still worked out. So we will choose love. There we go. So the love ending is now locked in, and we have basically returned from our trek to Yomi. We are now back in the quote-unquote real world. And, you know, we're still on a mission, right? We still weren't able to defeat Kagero, the guy who burned down our hometown, who killed our master, who killed our loved one. So, yeah, but we haven't chosen the vengeance ending. We still have to take care of that guy because he's a bastard. So let's retrace our steps through basically chapter 1. If you've been paying close attention, you will actually see a lot of the areas from chapter 1 that we basically retread in a little bit of another order. So it's really a nice callback to the start of the run when all of this was still intact. Obviously, it's looking a little bit different now on the one hand because it's half destroyed. On the other hand, you know, some years passed between chapter 1 and the rest of the game. So the town has actually evolved. Which is pretty nice, you know, visual representation of time passing. So obviously we will face some very tough enemy combinations here. A lot of spearmen or archers in the background that will start shooting at you, a lot of gunmen, a lot of armored enemies, and even a completely new enemy type that we will face in just a moment here. Oh, whoops. So these are the armored spearmen. They are the toughest enemies in the whole game. However, they do have weakness to arrows, as you could see right there. So a single arrow will basically kill them outright, at least on Kabuki difficulty. So that is kind of what we're trying to do. Because otherwise, we would have a pretty tough fight on our hands. Sadly, I don't have any more arrows, so I will actually have to go ahead and fight this one the normal way. But then again, you know, one of these block-ignoring combinations that we picked up when we fought or re-fought the Chapter 2 boss in Chapter 5 makes quick work of them anyway. But yeah, this is the last chapter of the game. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes to get through once you get into it. And we're probably already like 2 minutes or so into it, so maybe about 5 minutes are left on the run. Time just flies if we're having fun, right? There are these guys. Not forget about this guy this time. I always tend to forget about this particular armor guy for whatever reason. I just can never remember that he is there. Luckily, he spawns all the way to the left of the screen. That is not the guy that I want to shoot. He just absolutely took that arrow for this armor guy here. What a chat. Basically body blocking my arrow. But finally, we get our redemption against all these archers that have been shooting us. I want to imagine that these are also the archers from Chapter 3 that shot at us when the wall of death rained down on us. And finally, we can go ahead and just slice them open. Alright, these are the last normal enemies in the game. So it's basically the last fight that we're gonna do before the final boss fight. We just get rid of all of these, shoot an arrow, bye dude. And from here on out, it's a straight shot to the final boss. So I guess we have about 2 to 3 minutes left here. Because there are some more sections coming up, because you know we are at the end of the game. And the one thing that we haven't seen so far, I mean, we've seen a lot of sword combat, we've seen a lot of beautiful vistas, we've got a lot of story if you had watched all the cutscenes. One thing they haven't seen so far is explosions. Because obviously, you know, somebody on the development team probably thought, you know what we need? We need to show off our physics engine at some point. And that is what they're going to do in just a moment here. So, you know, this is now Trek to Yomi as directed by Michael Bay. Because for some reason this fire like pursues us into the fireworks factory. Because obviously it does. Physics! Alright, there we go. That was the physics engine of the game. And with that, we are actually approaching the final boss fight. Now the final boss, or rather time will end on the hit, on the final hit on the boss. He has 2 phases that we have to get through. The first phase is basically the same boss fight from Chapter 3, but this time he has vastly reduced health. So we'll just run up to him, parry his attacks, or maybe not. There we go. Hit him with our heavy attacks, and now he will transform into a demon himself. Wait for him to use his fireball attack, hit him hard. Then he will summon his past selves, so we have to fight these guys again. We get rid of these, then he will come back. Oh, right. Wait for his fireball, and time. And now we enjoy the ending, because you guys donated for that.
$1:04.24.
Not too bad. The world record is 1 hour, 3 minutes, 28 seconds. So that is within 1 minute of that. So not too shabby, I want to say. Sadly, we didn't beat the record this time. But I will come for you again. Don't you worry. Anyway, let's enjoy the ending for 1 second here. So we chose the love ending, so obviously we get reunited with Aiko in the afterlife, because do remember she did die during that raid because we weren't able to protect her. And since we are also, you know, kinda dead because technically we died at the end of Chapter 3, Hiroki basically chooses to forfeit his own life to be reunited with her. And they now spend eternity in Yomi together. I guess. Anyway, everybody, that is the run. This was Trek to Yomi. Again, this was the first time this game was shown off to an audience. Very honored to be here, to be able to, you know, to open up this marathon. Thank you so much for your donations. Thank you for the organizers for having me here. If you thought that this, you know, looked nice, you know, that you want to see more of that, I will actually run this game again during ESA. However, that time, I will run it on Kensei mode. Kensei mode, as you can read right here, for those who want to switch things up, everything besides bosses can be defeated with a single hit, including you. So if you've ever played stuff like Devil May Cry on Heaven and Hell difficulty, you kind of know where this is going. So this is going to be a treat. I will do it during ESA, so, you know, in about a month's time or so, you can watch that there. For now, though, we just started BSG 35. This was the first one of the marathon. We're just getting started, so stick around, because we have a whole weekend planned out for you with a lot of awesome speedruns. Good luck to all the runners. Enjoy the weekend, everybody, and that's all of it from me. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Aeshmah, for that awesome run. Only 1 minute towards world record. Yeah, that's amazing. Well done, job well done. All right, you were mentioning Devil May Cry in the process with the amazing difficult mode. That's why I'm going to make it easy for myself. I'm going to go take it easy on easy automatic later on this day. So thank you again for having that amazing run in, and yeah. See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was an amazing run, guys. The next run is coming.